Have you ever noticed how kindness can become an unspoken contract? One where you're expected to stay quiet, stay available, and shrink yourself just to keep others comfortable? People assume your patience is endless, that you'll endure their disrespect simply because you're the understanding one. But the moment you stop overextending yourself, everything changes. It's like feeding a stray dog every day. It never growls, never bites, just shows up, eats, and leaves. But the day you stop feeding it, it doesn't bark, it doesn't scratch at the door, it just disappears. That's when you realise it wasn't loyalty, it was convenience. That's exactly what happens when you stop being overly nice to the wrong people. You don't lose a real connection, you lose a habit disguised as one. And when you finally stop, they don't ask if you're okay. They don't appreciate all the times you were there. Instead, they say, "You've changed." They wonder why you're distant, not realising they pushed you there. That reaction, that's the real them. If you find value in what we're discussing here, a simple, free way to support us is to hit that subscribe button and don't skip any part of the video. Each piece of information could be the key to unlocking deeper insights into human nature and your personal peace of mind. Because while they loved the way you always gave, they never respected the fact that you had limits. So now you have a choice. Keep prioritizing people who don't truly care, or start protecting your own peace. Some people don't love you for who you are. They love you for what you allow. And the moment you stop allowing it, you see the truth. So what happens when you stop being overly nice to the wrong people? First, they reveal their true colors. Think about it. People who are used to your constant yes will celebrate you when you're always accommodating, always agreeable, always available. But the second you say no or set a boundary, everything shifts. The warmth disappears. The compliments fade. The real person beneath the surface starts to emerge. The moment you choose yourself, the mask slips. Those who once smiled in your face might guilt trip you, criticize you, or act as if you've done something wrong, when all you did was prioritize your well-being. They're not upset because you changed. They're upset because they can no longer benefit from your silence, your time, or your willingness to tolerate what they took for granted. And that reaction? That's the most honest thing they've ever given you. When speaking the truth angers someone, it means they never valued the truth to begin with. Similarly, if someone only appreciates you when you're sacrificing for their benefit, they never truly respected you. They were loyal to what you provided, not who you are. And the moment you stop giving, they stop pretending to care. Take Rachel, for example. She was always the reliable one, the friend who said yes, even when it cost her time, energy, and peace of mind. But one day, she had enough. She started saying no. She stopped over-explaining herself. She turned down last-minute requests that always seemed to benefit others at her expense. And the response? Some people respected her more, but others grew distant. One friend even accused her of changing, as if setting boundaries was a betrayal. Another friend simply disappeared. At first, Rachel felt guilty, but then she realized something important. They weren't her true friends. They had been attached to the version of her that never pushed back. So how do you handle people who reveal their true colors when you stop being overly nice? Acknowledge the shift. Their reaction to your boundaries exposes their real motives. Stand firm. Just because they're uncomfortable doesn't mean you're wrong. Growth requires change. Appreciate the clarity. When people show you who they are, believe them. Kindness should never mean becoming a doormat. The wrong people will see your boundaries as a threat, while the right ones will recognize them as self-respect. When you stop being nice to those who only took advantage, you don't lose real connections, you just stop living in an illusion. And that kind of honesty, that's where real peace begins. The power shift. Something interesting happens when you stop being overly nice, especially to those who benefited from your people-pleasing. When you're always agreeable, constantly accommodating and prioritizing others above yourself, you unknowingly give away control. Their moods dictate your responses. Their expectations shape your choices. Their opinions influence your self-worth. But the moment you stop seeking their approval, everything changes. Suddenly, They realize they can no longer manipulate your emotions or decisions like before, and for those who thrive on control, that's unsettling. The truth is, your excessive kindness gave them power. It wasn't just generosity, it was permission. Permission to take up space in your life without war. Take Jason, for example. For years, he was the nice guy, always agreeable, always putting others first. He stayed late at work without recognition, adjusted his plans to accommodate family demands, and avoided conflict at all costs. Why? Because he wanted to keep the peace. But over time, he realized it wasn't peace, it was submission, and people had come to expect it, as if it was just part of who he was. Then one day, Jason decided to change. He started saying no, calmly, firmly, without over-explaining. And the reaction? Not great. A colleague scoffed, "Wow, you're different now." A family member tried to guilt-trip him, saying, "You're not as generous as you used to be." But Jason held his ground, and then something incredible happened. The weight he had been carrying, it lifted. The pressure, gone. He realized those people had never actually controlled him. He had just been handing over his power the whole time. So, how do you handle it when people start losing their grip on you? Stop explaining your strength. Own it. Let them be uncomfortable. It's not your job to manage their reaction to your growth. Stand firm. You don't owe anyone a version of yourself that exists only for their comfort. At the end of the day, when you stop being nice to the wrong people, they lose access to the version of you they benefited from, and you gain access to the version of yourself that's finally free. The return of mental clarity. One of the most underrated benefits of breaking free from excessive people-pleasing is something few people talk about. Your mental clarity returns. When you constantly cater to people who take more than they give, your mind becomes cluttered. You overanalyze, anticipate, and second-guess every move. Did I offend them? Should I have said yes? Will they be upset if I don't respond right away? It's a never-ending loop of worry. And the worst part, you don't even realize how loud it's gotten until the noise is gone. The truth is, pleasing the wrong people clouds your judgment. You become so focused on meeting their expectations that you start ignoring your own intuition. You silence your inner voice to avoid disappointing others, and over time you lose touch with what you actually want. Your direction blurs, and suddenly you're not living for yourself, you're just managing how others feel about you. But the moment you step back, the moment you stop overgiving, over-apologizing, and overthinking, you start seeing things clearly again, and that's when everything changes. That's where true strength and true peace begins. Seneca once said, "Remove unnecessary things from your mind and peace will return." It's simple, yet profound. When you let go of the burden of people-pleasing, especially for those who never truly valued you, you create space. Space to think, space to breathe, space to focus on what actually matters. Mental clarity doesn't come from trying to please everyone or getting everything right. It comes from aligning your actions with your values and protecting your peace from those who don't respect it. Take Emily, for example. She was the go-to person in her circle. Need a favour? Call Emily. Need emotional support in the middle of the night? Emily would pick up. But over time she realised something. She wasn't okay. She was exhausted, anxious, and constantly overthinking every interaction. She'd lie awake at night, replaying conversations, wondering if she had upset someone just by being honest. Then one day she made a change. She didn't become distant, she became clear. She set boundaries, she stopped over-explaining. She gave herself permission to not answer every call immediately. And within weeks, she felt like a completely different person. Her thoughts were calmer, her priorities clearer, and for the first time in years, she felt at peace. How to protect your mental clarity. Step back from those who drain it. You don't owe constant access to people who misuse your time and energy. Embrace silence. Not every opinion needs a response. Not every expectation deserves a reaction. Reconnect with yourself. Ask, what do I need right now? Then honour that answer. When you stop being overly nice to the wrong people, you reclaim your inner stillness, the clarity that was buried under guilt, fear, and noise, and in that stillness, you finally hear yourself again. The power of self-respect. One of the most profound shifts that happens when you stop people-pleasing isn't just about setting boundaries or cutting off toxic ties. You gain self-respect. When you're always putting others first, you're not just being generous, you're putting yourself last. You quiet your voice so others can speak louder. You shrink your needs so theirs seem more important. You say yes when you really want to say no, just to keep the peace. But in reality, what you're doing is abandoning yourself in the name of harmony. And every time you do, your self-worth takes a hit. The truth: choosing peace over people-pleasing builds self-respect. Because peace isn't just about avoiding conflict, it's about protecting your inner world. When you stop saying yes to things that don't align with your values, something shifts. You start seeing yourself differently. You stop questioning your worth and start honoring your limits. You realize your time, energy, and emotional well-being are not up for negotiation. You begin acting like someone who matters, and that changes everything. Epictetus put it perfectly. Respect yourself enough to walk away from anything that no longer serves you. That includes people who only take, conversations that drain you, and dynamics that make you feel small. Self-respect isn't arrogance, it's alignment. The more you respect yourself, the less tolerance you'll have for people who don't. Take Ethan, for example. For years, he was the fixer, the reliable one, the guy who always said, "No worries, I got it," even when it cost him sleep, peace, and his own priorities. But one day, he stepped back and took a hard look at his relationships. Who actually reciprocated his energy? The answer was clear: not many. So he made a change. He started saying no, politely but firmly. He stopped over-explaining himself. And yes, some people got uncomfortable. Some even called him selfish, but something inside him shifted. He started walking taller, thinking clearer, and feeling more grounded. Because for the first time, he was showing up for himself. How to build self-respect. Say no when necessary, without guilt. Your needs matter just as much as anyone else's. Stop over-explaining yourself. You don't need to justify every decision to people who never justify theirs. Recognize your worth. If someone only values you when you're self-sacrificing, they don't truly value you. At the end of the day, self-respect is about refusing to abandon yourself for the comfort of others. It's not selfish, it's necessary. Reclaiming your power. First, stop apologizing for having needs. You are allowed to take up space. Second, make choices that align with your values, not just what keeps others comfortable. And third, celebrate your growth even if others don't. At the end of the day, when you stop being overly nice to the wrong people, you don't just gain peace, you build a stronger relationship with yourself. You stop shrinking, you stop settling, and you start standing firm, confident, and unshakable. And that's where true self-respect begins. The manipulation tactic. So, what happens when you start setting boundaries with people who are quietly benefiting from your compliance? Do they accept it and move on? Not usually. Manipulators don't let go easily. Instead, they try to pull you back in. Their first tactic: guilt. They'll say things like, "You've changed," or "I guess you don't care about me anymore." They'll frame your growth as a betrayal, making themselves out to be the victim, as if your healthy boundary is somehow an attack on them. If guilt doesn't work, they shift to deception. They suddenly act warm, considerate, even apologetic. They say things like, "I've been thinking a lot," or "I just want things to go back to the way they were." But look closely. Nothing has really changed. Their patterns remain the same. It's not growth, it's strategy. A calculated move to regain control. Recognizing this behavior is key. The moment you stop falling for it is the moment you break free for good. They're not sorry they took advantage. They're sorry they lost access. Here's the hard truth. When you create distance, you expose motives. People who truly care about you will respect your space. But those who benefited from your constant kindness, they panic. Not because they love you, but because they miss the control. Your boundaries threaten the role they played in your life. Instead of reflecting on their behaviour, they try to shift the blame, making you question your decision. This is where Stoic wisdom cuts through the noise. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The closer one is to truth, the more falsehood resists." Think about that. The moment you start living more truthfully, saying no without guilt, stopping the over-explaining, prioritising your peace, those living in falsehood will push back the hardest. Not because you're wrong, but because your clarity disrupts their control. Take Rachel, for example. For years, she had a friend who leaned on her emotionally, took up her time, and disappeared the moment she needed support. But Rachel didn't say anything. She didn't want to cause tension, until one day she did. She pulled back, gently but firmly, and immediately her friend flipped. First came guilt. "I guess our friendship doesn't matter anymore." Then came charm. "I miss us. Let's hang out like we used to." But Rachel had learned something crucial. None of it was genuine. It wasn't about valuing her. It was about maintaining the dynamic that worked for them, not her. So she held her ground, and that decision changed everything. How to handle manipulation? Stay grounded. Their reaction doesn't define your worth. It reveals their dependence on your compliance. Don't over-explain. The more you justify, the more room they have to twist your words. Trust the discomfort. Their resistance is proof that your boundary is working. At the end of the day, when you stop catering to the wrong people, they will resist. Let them panic. You're no longer playing the role they wrote for you. Creating space for genuine people. One of the most unexpected yet beautiful things about setting boundaries, you create space for real connections. At first, it might feel lonely. You might wonder, did I do the right thing? What if I end up with no one? But here's the reality. As you remove the wrong people, the ones who thrived on your kindness, this is where Stoic wisdom offers a clear lesson. Seneca once said, "Associate with those who make you better." That means choosing relationships that elevate your spirit, not drain it. People who walk with you, not behind you, not ahead of you, but beside you. Take Brandon, for example. For years, he surrounded himself with people who only showed up when it was convenient. He'd go out of his way for them, drive across town, lend money, help them move. But when Brandon hit a tough time, those same people were nowhere to be found. So he took a step back, not with drama, just quiet distance, and something surprising happened. The noise faded and new people started entering his life. People who showed up consistently. People who asked how he was doing, not just what he could do for them. Over time, Brandon's circle grew smaller but stronger. How to make room for the right people? Be willing to let go. If someone drains your energy, they don't deserve a permanent seat in your life. Clarify your values. When you know what you stand for, you'll recognize who aligns with it. Trust the process. Genuine people don't always appear immediately, but they won't come until there's space for them. At the end of the day, when you stop being overly nice to the wrong people, you clear the path for the right ones to find you, and those relationships, they don't just feel better, they make you better. Your energy transforms. One of the most powerful shifts that happens when you stop being overly nice to the wrong people isn't something you see immediately, but you feel it. Your energy changes. When you constantly pour your time, focus, and emotional bandwidth into people who only take, those who ignore your boundaries, manipulate your kindness, or disappear when you need support, you start running on empty. You feel exhausted for no reason. You lose motivation for the things that once excited you. You become so entangled in everyone else's needs that you forget your own. And that's why this shift is so important, because here's the truth. When you stop giving to the wrong people, you reclaim your time, your energy, and your peace. That quiet but powerful shift doesn't just change your relationships, it impacts every part of your life. Your mind clears up. You start focusing better. You wake up without the emotional weight you used to carry. And maybe most importantly, you start choosing yourself, not out of selfishness, but out of necessity. This is where Stoic wisdom becomes your anchor. Epictetus said, He who is not a slave to others' expectations is truly free. That's what this shift is about. Freedom. The freedom to say no without guilt. The freedom to live without performing for others. The freedom to prioritize your own peace without asking for permission. When you stop living